Hey guys, welcome to CraterMania. I'm your host, the man they call Crater. And I'd like to welcome you guys back to my series here on YouTube that I've started at the beginning of this year. And now I'm about a quarter into this now. And this is the 500 Movies in 2025 series. Um, so for this one, it's going to be a little bit different. So I'm not going to be covering a whole lot of movies like I usually do on each episode of this night. I'm going to be covering two different movies tonight, and those will be towards the on the in the second half of the show. So for the first, and by the way, those movies will be number 128 and 129 in the 500 movies in 2025. But for the first half um, of the show, I would like to talk about my trip that I took this past weekend at to Cincinnati, Ohio, to HorrorHound weekend. So I've been going to this show for 16 years now. Um, and it's my absolute favorite convention to go to. And I had an absolute blast. This was the first time that I ever got to use media passes or press passes for the show. Thanks to being able to start this YouTube channel and all that, and I qualifying for that. That was very cool and different for me. Even though I didn't really do any kind of like coverage while at the show or do any kind of interviews or anything, just because I don't think I'm ready for that, honestly. Just because this is a very new channel. I mean, I don't have a huge following or anything, but like I said, when I first started this channel, that's not really why I started this channel to have a big following or anything like that, or worried about subscribers or even though that is nice, and I do would like that. I would I would accept that definitely. But like I said, in the beginning when I started this channel, um, it's more just about creating kind of a video diary for anybody that cares to hear me talk about this stuff, whether it be my family members, whether it be my friends, um, just for anybody that cares about this stuff as much as I do, I guess. Um, but anyway, like I said, Horror Hound weekend. I was only there for a little bit on Friday night because we left. Around 5 o'clock here in Hazard on Friday evening. And we got there, it was almost, after a few stops, getting gas and all that good stuff. We got there around 9 o'clock, which was an hour before the show closed. And so we got there in time for my wife Candace and my brother-in-law CJ. They were able to go ahead and do their photo op with Corey Taylor. So um, I purchased it right as we got there because I was like, okay, so the photo op's not till 9:40, so it's 9 o'clock. We still have some time to go in here and get our passes, look around a little bit before you guys do the photo op. And I also purchased one for me and Candace together as well with Corey Taylor um, for Saturday, which was just him. Like the photo op that Candace and CJ did together was with both Corey Taylor and Sid Wilson of Slipknot. But me and Candace just chose to do the one with Corey Taylor by himself. Um, but like I said, I love this show. The vendors are always great, and that's all I focused on. Like in that last hour of the show on Friday evening when we got there, aside from Candace and CJ doing their photo op, I was just there looking at the vendors. Seeing a lot of familiar faces of people I became friends with in the past couple of years. Um, who are vendors at the show or kind of regulars. Um, and I picked up a few VHS tapes on Friday night. Uh, and did I pick up anything? Yeah. Oh yeah, I did pick up one other thing on Friday night. And I'll show that all that stuff to you that I got. I'll show you. I do a whole big haul on the all the goodies that I picked up at HorrorHound. I'm just kind of going over right now, just kind of the my experience with it, my thoughts on it and all that. But like I said, it looked like it wasn't too crowded in that last hour on Friday night. But I didn't. The only room I went into was the main vendor hall, which there are some celebrity guests in there and all that. And it looks like some of the guests, especially the Terrifier people, were getting a lot of traction from people in attendance. Um, I don't know what the main celebrity room on the other end of the building with the headlight, not I don't want to call it the main celebrity, but that room is just all the celebrities, signing autographs and taking pictures and all that. And they had the more headlining guests like, Corey Taylor, Linda Blair, um, Ty West, all the because Ty West was only scheduled for Saturday and Sunday of the show, but he ended up showing up on Friday and was doing a signing and stuff like that on Friday as well. Um, and But yeah, I didn't get to check that out. I'm sure it was probably crowded as hell on Friday night. And let me see here just a second. Okay, so anyway, like I said, we did. I just checked out the vendors. I bought a couple of things on Friday night in that last hour. I was trying to get a scope of the vendor hall, where all the vendors were at, get an idea of what they had, so that way I could really, take that thought process and figure out what I wanted to do the next day on Saturday, which is going to be the big day of the weekend. Um, and so like I guess I'll go ahead and just like show what I got on Friday night. So I'll instead of doing the goodie haul all together, let me just go ahead because I'm really excited to show you guys these. So a guy named Joe Rogers, who is a vendor, it does a lot of the horror hounds and other conventions as well. He has I think his company is called 12 Gauge Gore. So he sells a lot of VHS tapes, original movie posters, just a bunch of different types of collectibles. Um, and his prices are always very reasonable. And he seems like a really super cool guy. I haven't really known him that long. I'm not, I'm not super close with him, but I mean, the times that I've talked to him, I really like that dude. He's super friendly and seems like he's always got a smile on his face. And like I said, he has some really cool shit to buy from him. So I bought 4 different VHS tapes from him on Friday night when I got there and I saw his table. I was like, oh, he had this tote on the end of his table where all the tapes in that tote were $5 each. And so one of the first ones that I picked up out of there, and I said, "Okay, I gotta get this." I mean, it's like a really dumb, cheesy film, but because I'm a wrestling fan and because this was something I always remember from the '90s, um, I had to pick up the VHS of Thunder in Paradise. Let me see if I can fix this lighting. So, all right, so there we go. So Thunder in Paradise Terry Hulk Hogan. Is that not the most 90s thing you've ever seen? And I mean, look at that cover. I mean, that would make Michael Bay envious. Am I right? And then, of course, you got like the images on the back of like with the parachute and the kid strapped to the front of him. And uh, it's a very, very cheesy movie. But yeah, I couldn't pass up getting Thunder in Paradise. Uh, so the next one that I want to show is because as you know, I'm a huge Universal Monsters fan and just huge just all those actors of that time period. I'm a huge fan of. If you watched my Universal Monsters week here on the channel, you definitely know that I'm a huge fan of that stuff. So I just had to pick up a few more tapes to kind of add to that Universal Monsters collection. This first one, this is the only one actually from the Universal Monsters. Well, I don't know. This other one is kind of, yeah, I would consider this one Universal Monsters as well. but it's also a mixture of other film series. But I'll get to that in just a minute. But the first one I want to show here is like a Universal Monsters film, and it's starring Bela Lugosi, and it is Night Monster. So yeah, I have never seen this one though, but I seen this in his tote, and I was like, I've never seen that one, but I've always wanted to watch it, and I don't have that one in my collection. And you can't go wrong with Bela Lugosi. I mean, this movie came out in 1942, and some of the other people in the film I don't recognize. Um, but I'm definitely going to be checking this one out at some point. But I want to go ahead and buy it while I was at the convention. I said, well, I'm not sure when I'll get to watch it, but definitely it's going to go into my Universal Monster VHS collection. Um, so this next one is from the Hammer horror series of Dracula films with Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing, and this is the Rites of Dracula. Um, and you see, got that classic image of Christopher Lee there on the cover with the tagline, "There's no hope left." And I have seen this film released on VHS with various different covers, and I don't think I'd ever seen this one before. So I was like, I, and I think I might already have this one with a different cover, but like I really liked the cover art on this one, and I do that with a lot of movies too. And you also you've got the classic images on the back as well. I know that that particular image of Christopher Lee as Dracula is very iconic. Um, but as I was saying, like I have done that with several movies before, to where even if I own a copy of the movie, like I will buy again if it has a different cover. But I'll only do that with movies like I really, really love. I don't do that with like every movie. That'd be ridiculous. But like Evil Dead, the original Evil Dead, I have several different variations of the Evil Dead on DVD, VHS, Blu-ray, and all different covers with all those. Um, but I'm definitely guilty for it with Universal Monster, or not just Universal Monster movies, but just all like monster movies in general, and like even the Hammer horror series like this one. And um, but you know, some people may call me a hoarder for that, but I just call it being, um, you know, just a really big collector of things. So anyway, the last tape that I got from Joe. Um, was okay. So before I show this tape, let me pull this one tape off the shelf over here. So I think I showed this in my Universal Monsters when I was talking about the original Frankenstein. Um, I'm pretty sure I showed this to you guys. The This is a Frankenstein, a cinematic scrapbook, and so it's just basically like a collection of movie trailers and just like trivia questions and stuff about the Frankenstein movies. And it's a really cool tape. I really like this a lot, just because it's kind of something you can just kind of have in playing at in the background, like during a Halloween party or whatever. Um, so this tape that I got from Joe was very much like that one, but this one is about the Dracula movies, and this one's called Dracula in the Movies. So it's the same kind of deal. It just shows like trailers of all the different Dracula movies, and has like I guess like trivia and stuff on it as well. Um, so I may watch this one sometime this week, and this it won't count, of course, towards my 500 movies in 2025 series, because technically this is not a movie; it's just a collection of trailers and stuff like that. But yeah, I definitely I had to get this one to add it along with the Frankenstein tape that I have, because yeah, even though they're not released by the same companies or anything. It's just they're kind of in the same vein of material. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah, those are the VHS tapes that I got on Friday night at HorrorHound. Um, so the let's talk about the next day on Saturday. So we got there probably right after they opened the doors for general admission. We walked right in and checked out, several vendors at first, just looking around some more than what we did, the previous night on Friday evening. And so the first thing that we had to do that was like, mandatory was at 12:55. Me and Candace had our photo op with Corey Taylor. And I've only shared this with a few people before, but I figured I'd go ahead and just put this out there now on my channel with all you guys that are watching. So I discovered Corey Taylor with when he was with Slipknot. Well, I don't want to say discovered him, but I mean I found out who he was and who Slipknot was in the year 2000. I was a freshman in high school. So I was just going into high school when I found out who Slipknot was, and just the whole like concept behind the band, the mask and everything was just super cool to me. And this was in the middle of a time where I was kind of going through this change, going through puberty. So a lot of things were changing about me, musical taste, everything, and this was also during a time where I was going through some really, you know, difficult stuff in my life, just because of high school wasn't the easiest time for me. And this was in my freshman year, and like, as soon as high school started, I was just like um, having a lot of issues. Where high school was very, very difficult for me because of bullying and all that crap. And because I went to school. I'm not going to lie, with a lot of dickheads who were very cruel. But I think that's the case. I think everywhere there's kids in that age are always cruel to other kids. Um, but by discovering or not, again, not discovering, but finding out about Slipknot and just learning about those guys, reading about them in like Circus Magazine, Hit Paraders, Metal Edge, stuff like that. The more and more I got into uh, that new metal scene with Slipknot and Korn and System of a Down and just bands like that, it was really just changing me, and a lot of that music, especially Slipknot and stuff, was helping me cope with just stuff that was going on in my real life. And then when Corey's other band, came out and I found out about them, Stone Sour, just those his Corey's music really helped me through a lot of stuff and get through high school, made it a lot easier for me. Um, so and I've seen Corey perform with Slipknot several times, Stone Sour several times, but never gotten a chance to meet him. And my wife, Candace, also a huge fan of Corey. So she's had her own path of fandom for him and his music as well. So it'd been a really long time coming for us to meet Corey Taylor. And when I found out he wasn't doing any kind of table selfies or anything at the convention, I said, well, I have to get the photo up. We got to get a picture with him. And and I want to show this picture. Let me go ahead and pull this up for you guys. Um, one second. So let's see here. So there's the picture of me and my wife and Corey Taylor. And this always happens. When we get these pro photo ops at conventions, um, it never fails. Like because I can't see anything hardly at all without my glasses. I'm like Velma from Scooby Doo. I can't see without my glasses. Um, so and where I'm tall and stuff, and in these photo ops, they have these big, huge like lights there in that area where they're taking with the camera and all that. So these lights are always glaring in my glasses, and so you can kind of see like my one eye, my right eye here, but the other eye is completely covered by these lights that I'm staring at for the photo. But that's besides the matter. I mean, I was kind of like upset at that at first. I was like, man, freaking glare got my glasses again. And but overall, I was just like, it was very trivial. And because this photo, I love this photo. It was super important for both me and Candace to get this photo with Corey Taylor. And I love this. I mean, he was a super cool guy. I mean, he's very nice. And Candace was telling me about like because when her and her brother CJ did the photo op the night before with both Corey and Sid Wilson, because where they were both in there together doing the photos, they said they were very goofy and not taking anything seriously, and it's just a very fun experience for them. Um, I mean, and this was, I mean, even though he wasn't doing anything goofy and he was being more serious, and this, I mean, it was still a super fun experience for me and just very surreal for both of us. I think just because of how long we've been a fan. Myself being a fan of Corey and his music for 25 years, and Candace probably about the same thing. I'm not sure when she exactly started listening to him, but I'm probably sure. I'm sure it's probably around the same time that I got into him. But it was just it was so cool to just finally experience that, to meet Corey, and of all places at my favorite convention in the world, HorrorHound weekend. Um, yeah, I mean, if you're a fan of Corey Taylor, they say sometimes don't meet your idols, but I disagree with that because I mean, yeah, you're going to meet some celebrities at these conventions and stuff, and you're going to have experiences that you don't necessarily are going to like. Some celebrities might be rude, but it's just kind of a chance you have to take, and sometimes it really pays off. And I think, and it definitely paid off by meeting Corey Taylor. He's one of my favorite singers of all time. Um, I mean, probably top five singers for me, and just is definitely a 10 out of 10 experience getting to meet him, and then later that evening getting to see him perform this solo acoustic show there at Horror Hound. And it was and he says when he started that show that evening that that was the first acoustic show that he'd done in over 3 years. So it felt really special, for not only me, but I'm sure everyone there that was in attendance for that show. Um, and it was just especially special for me and my wife Candace, my brother-in-law CJ, just getting to hear him play these songs acoustically, and some songs that we thought we would never get to hear him play, like this cover of Wicked Game or Snuff from the Slipknot song Snuff. um, just very cool. I mean, unforgettable experience. And if you're a fan of his stuff, I highly recommend taking the time and try to meet him, even if it's just what we did, just by just going and getting that pro photo op. I mean, just knowing that I met this guy because he's an absolute legend in the metal scene, and yeah, um, just completely unforgettable. And yeah, like my wife sitting here, she says Corey, was amazing, such a fun guy. Absolutely, absolutely. And I would definitely pay to meet him again. Um, I would even go as I'm not someone that typically collects autographs of musicians. I'm more of just kind of a movie autograph type guy, or wrestling. Um, but I would definitely, if I saw him at another convention, I would go to it and try to get in his line just to get an autograph from him, just so I could talk to him a little bit longer. Because these photo ops, these pro photo ops, they are very quick. So you go in there, you take your picture, and then you head out. So it's basically like a 10-second experience. But I took that time to make sure that I shook this man's hand and tell him that I was a big fan. I appreciate him, and I was thankful to meet him. And you could definitely tell that this guy is very appreciative of his fans. Um, but I guess let me see. Let me go ahead and take that down. All right. So, like I said, after the Corey Taylor, photo op, we just did a little bit more, looking around at the vendors, doing some shopping, buying some things. Um, and let me see if I could find something to show you guys. Okay, so um, one of the actually, let me get this first. So, one of the vendors who were at HorrorHound, which and they're a frequent vendor. They've been there. They're there almost every single time as a vendor, and they're one of my favorite T-shirt vendors in the whole horror T-shirt game right now. And not sure how long these guys have been around, but they have some really amazing designs, and the quality of their merch is really top notch, and I think they have really good prices. And let me see, I think I might have a sticker from these guys back here. So yeah, so I do have this sticker that they gave me as well, and this is Paul Bearer Press. And there's their website down at the bottom of that sticker, paulbearerpress.com. Super cool guys, fun to talk to. I had a really good conversation with both those guys that were running the booth, and picked up a few things from them that I wanted to show. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to show this in its. I don't think I'm going to be able to show this in kind of its full, um, the full image of this all at once. But this is a tapestry that I bought from them, and this is probably one of the coolest tapestries that I've ever seen. And so I'm gonna kind of slowly move this up so you guys can see what it is. Um, so you see Sammy Kerr there from Trigger Treat. We'll kind of roll this up, and as it goes up, he's got his guitar, and it says Sammy Kerr down at the bottom. Sorry, I can't get that fully in the shot, guys. Um, but this was only $25. I thought that was a fantastic deal on this tapestry. This is going up on somewhere here in my room at some point. I'm gonna try to find a place for it. I may use it over my window like as a curtain or something. Um, but yeah, they have all kinds of different designs for tapestries. They have t-shirts, long sleeves, hoodies, sweatpants, hats, all kinds of different stuff. Just go to their website. Again, that's paulbearerpress.com. So definitely go check them out. Um, they are super cool guys, and if you're ever at a convention, I recommend stopping by their table and checking out their stuff. So here's a couple T-shirts that I got from them as well. There were a few other designs that I liked better that I wanted from them at the show, but unfortunately they were sold out of 2X's, and I wasn't able to pick them up at the show. But they are available on the website. Um, but one that they did have my size in, and I definitely wanted to pick up, is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. It's definitely my favorite Italian movie, my favorite Dario Argento film, and it is Suspiria. And I want to say this is I don't know what kind of language I wanted to say it was Japanese, but I'm not sure exactly what um, language that is. But I just love that classic image there of Jessica Harper from Suspiria. And she's another chick, man, that I would love to meet. She's on my bucket list of people I love, and I've asked Nathan from HorrorHound. I've asked other promoters to try to get her, and Nathan's tried to get her several times, and other promoters have as well. But I think she's just one of those people that's not really interested in the whole convention scene. Um, so I may never get to meet her, unfortunately. But you know, it is what it is. I'll still always be a fan of her, and love her for Suspiria, definitely. Um, and the other shirt that I got from Paul Bearer Press is none other than one of my favorite Universal Monster movies, The Phantom of the Opera. And that's such a cool image of the whole Red Death costume that the Phantom wears to the masquerade ball in the film. And when I saw this, I was like, that's without question, I'm getting that shirt, and I think they have this also in like long sleeves as well, maybe on their website. Said there's a ton of stuff from these guys that I highly recommend. Checking out their stuff if you got time, if you like that kind of thing. Um, yeah, I mean, again, Paul Bear Press, check them out for sure, guys. Um, but not long, about maybe around 1 o'clock or something. Well, or not. Well, no, this is a little bit later than that. So it's probably closer to 2. I was trying to build myself up to finally go and meet the person that I wanted to meet more than anybody at this convention. She was my number one going there because she's a part of a film that I'm going to be talking about here a little bit after I finish up my Horror Hound report, um, and that's Christina Lindbergh in the movie Thriller: A Cruel Picture, or also known as They Call Her One Eye. Um, so, man, I have been waiting so long to meet her because the first ever convention I went to back in 2009 was Cinema Wasteland, and Christina was a guest at that show. But at the time, I had not seen Thriller: A Cruel Picture, and I didn't know who she was. So shortly after the convention, like I just decided to watch the movie because I wanted to, I knew that she was a guest at Cinema Wasteland, and I was just kind of intrigued. I was like, because I saw all the imagery, like from posters and stuff like that, that they had for her to, to be to buy and be able to sign at the convention. And I was like, that's a very cool looking, image, very cool looking poster. So I decided to watch the movie, after I went to the convention, and man, was I kicking myself for not meeting her after I watched that movie. And it's been 16 years since that convention, that first convention that I went to, and I had not seen her at any other shows that I'd ever went to throughout the years, throughout those 16 years, until this Horror Hound weekend, this past weekend. Man, was it was a long journey finally coming to fruition. And when I met her on Saturday, and I'll show my lobby card here in a moment that I got her to sign. Um, but just meeting her was just so surreal, and I was so nervous. And but she was so nice. She was so kind, and she just took her time to talk with me because, unfortunately, she didn't have a line at all. I walked right up to her, had no wait time, and that just really like shocked me because this woman in that movie is such a huge, important part of exploitation cinema history. And it's just, it's the movie that inspired Quentin Tarantino to create the character of Ellie Driver in Kill Bill, and just all the themes that you see in like that film are all borrowed from Thriller: A Cruel Picture. And so, I discussed a lot of different things about the film with Christina, and she was just so kind and so, just had that loving attitude about her, and then she was just willing to talk with me as long as I wanted. And it was definitely it's one of my favorite experiences that I've ever had at a convention. Um, and like I said, I did get one of my lobby cards from the movie signed by her. And this is actually my favorite shot in the film, of her. And let me see. And there, to Chris, which is my real name, Chris. And my real name is not Crater, in case you were wondering. But my name is Chris, and she signed that to me. And she was like making like comments, like whenever I told her my name, she goes, "Oh, Chris, it's like the first part of my name." And I was like, "Oh yeah," So her making kind of like little uh quick-witted jokes and stuff like that was making me even more nervous, and I felt like I was so nervous, and I was just so like, I felt like I was turning red, and she was just, yeah, I mean, she was amazing, and I can't wait to get this framed and put up on my wall. And she doesn't do a lot of conventions. She because she still lives in Sweden, so people that do book her, the airfare for her travel to the U.S. to these conventions is not cheap, and it just I said this before on my last Horror Hound video that if you didn't take the opportunity to meet this woman, if you're a fan of film, a fan of exploitation films, um, you were really depriving yourself from meeting this woman because she is so cool. I hope she ends up doing more conventions here in the U.S. in my area. I would love to see her again, um, and and talk with her again. But yeah, this was just a hell of an experience, and I guess I could go ahead and show you guys the the photo that I got with her. So give me just one second here. So, well, first I'll show this photo again that I just showed you in the lobby card. So, like I said, this was her in 1973 in the film, and that's an iconic image for the film. Definitely my favorite shot in the film. And and that movie came out 52 years ago. So I believe Christina is now in her 70s because I think she was in her early 20s when she did this film. Um, so let me go ahead and pull up the photo that I got with her at the convention. So this is Christina now, and um, you, I look a little red in that photo. I mean, man, I was just like, I was so nervous meeting her because, like, I absolutely love her character. This is one of my absolute favorite exploitation films of all time. Um, she's just one of the most awesome women badasses in film history, just because of that transformation she goes through in the movie, from being this kind of quiet and shy and um, this girl who is a mute, who basically has no dialogue in the film at all, to and she becomes this she goes through this transformation of being this absolute badass and just who doesn't have any kind of concern for anybody's safety around her from her. And it's it's a movie that you have to watch to just to kind of experience. And yeah, just it's just so cool meeting her, and she her one of the things that always appealed to me about her was her eyes, because and I talked to her about that because um they really, because there's no dialogue from her in the movie, they really focused like on her performance with her eyes and her like body language. And it's just kind of I told her that it's kind of ironic that she kind of had this gift with her eyes, in the film, and that's a part of the story how one of her eyes gets taken from her, and then she's left with this iconic image of her with this eye patch. Um, so, and I don't know if that's the case or not, but I always felt like because this came out in '73, and just because of how inspiring this was, I've always been curious if this also inspired the character of Snake Plissken in John Carpenter's Escape from New York. Um, I don't know if anybody does know if that's the case. If there was any kind of inspiration from this for John Carpenter when he made Escape from New York, just to have Snake Plissken wear that eye patch, because something about just when you put an eye patch on a character, it just makes them even more badass for some reason. But yeah, just it was just a hell of an experience for me to meet Christina Lindbergh finally after all these years, after I had missed her, at that first convention I went to all those years ago. Um, it was just another really unforgettable experience for me. Um, so moving on, I guess I'll show you guys a few more things that I bought. Let me see, what can I show you guys? Oh, okay. So I bought these. There was this new little segment that they got going at this show called HorrorHound Underground. And in this room downstairs, where they had like all these different artists and just a lot of different other vendors down there, I started talking to this guy because he had some very interesting art and some subject matter within his art pieces that something that really appealed to me. And so I bought a couple art prints from this guy. I don't remember this guy's name. I'm so sorry. Um, um, actually, he actually signed these prints. So his name is Matthew uh, Parr. I can't tell what that says. I'm so sorry. But he was a absolutely wonderfully nice guy. We had some really good conversations about classic movies and horror hosts and stuff. And I said, like I said, I bought a couple art prints from him, and this first one is Abbott Costello meet Frankenstein. Um, and as if you watch my Universal Monsters Week videos, you would see that I talked about how this is my favorite movie when it comes to all the Universal Monster movies, just because it has all of the classic monsters, and it has what consider the best comedy duo of all time, Bud Abbott and Lou Costello. And just the movie is just right up my alley, and my wife loves it. My brother-in-law loves it. My father-in-law that passed away, he was a huge fan of it. My dad loves it. But and I've talked about my dad before. My dad's really the reason I got into horror films. So I actually showed that print to him today, and he loved it. And this other one he loved as well that I bought. And this is another one I'm a huge fan of. My wife, everybody, my family, several other of my friends as well love this movie. Um, because me and my family, we're all big fans of the Andy Griffith Show anyway, and Don Knotts, and but this is my favorite Don Knotts thing that he ever did, and this is the Ghost and Mr. Chicken, uh, and you get Don Knotts, that classic image of him from the Ghost and Mr. Chicken. It's just that classic, old school haunted house movie. Um, and that Don Knotts humor and the way his mannerisms and everything is just it makes it one of the best. I think it's definitely a horror comedy in my mind, and I think it's it's a classic. It has some of the best humor, and just Don Knotts was just amazing. and whatever he did, whether it was this or as Barney Fife on the Andy Griffith Show, or Shakiest Gun in the West, or just Incredible Mr. Limpet, whatever it is that he did, in his career was always amazing. Mr. Furley on Three's Company, he just there's so much, man. I'm a big Don Knotts fan, and I think a lot of people in my family are as well. Um, but I guess I'll show you guys a couple other things before I talk about the next celebrity guest that I met at the show. Um, so I got these souvenir cups from Fright Rags, and I collect these. I have several already, and they had a good deal on these, just $5 a piece at the show. Or no, I think it was $7 a piece, but you could get two for $10. So that made it $5 a piece. And one of the first series of movies I talked about here on the channel was the Phantasm series. You guys know that I'm a huge fan of those. So I definitely had to pick up this Phantasm cup, souvenir cup, to go into my collection. Um, I mean, that's just an absolute awesome cup with awesome art, man. Um, and then the other one that I bought is the Evil Dead 2 Dead by Dawn souvenir cup. And it's got Dead-Eyed Ash there, that classic image of him pointing after Ash becomes possessed in Evil Dead 2. Um, yeah, I love that. I mean, for essentially $5 a piece. I mean, I couldn't pass these up, and like I've already got a Reanimator one, and I've got a Joe Bob one, and I think, what's the other one I have? I can't remember. But they make several other ones as well. Like they have a Dawn of the Dead one that I've not gotten yet, and I need to get that. I mean, I definitely got to get the Dawn of the Dead one. That's my favorite horror film of all time. Um, But yeah, I just wanted to show those. Fright Rags did those, and you can buy those. You can go to frightrags.com, and they have those on the website as well. They're not going to have that deal, obviously, on the website for the if you buy two, you get them for $10. But that was kind of just a convention special with those. Um, but I mean, if you want them just for like collecting, you want them to drink out of. I mean, they're solid, man. I mean they're absolutely awesome cups, and I love the art on all of these that they when they put them out. Um, so I guess I'll go ahead and talk about another celebrity guest that I met this weekend, and I have met this guest before in the past. Both me and my wife have met this person in the past, but he was one of our favorites to meet together, just because he's so kind and just so friendly and just really takes his time with all of his fans. I don't know anybody that has met this person and has ever said a bad thing about them while meeting them. um, so with my brother-in-law, CJ, coming with us this weekend, he had never met this person. So we definitely it's like, you got me, and like so we talked him into it. We went and we got a picture with him, and CJ got an autograph from him. And the person, of course, that I'm talking about is the legend, the Fonz, Henry Winkler. And let me go ahead and pull this picture up. So I don't have the picture ready from where me and Candace met him years ago, but I'll show that you guys at some point. But here is the photo we took this weekend. Um, Again, there's me and my brother-in-law CJ, and then my wife Candace and Henry Winkler. I mean, just look at the smile on his face. I mean, and the guy is so friendly. Again, and I think we talked about with him about the same stuff that we talked about him, or talked about with him the last time me and Candace met him, and that's not the movie Night Shift, which we're all huge fans of. My brother-in-law CJ, he also loves Night Shift, and then But we also love Henry Winkler and almost everything he's in. Happy Days, The Water Boy, Lords of Flatbush, um, his little cameo appearance in Little Nicky, where he's covered in bees, and he's in Click as well. I mean, I love all of Henry Winkler's stuff that he did with Adam Sandler. And then I mentioned this to him the first time I ever met him too. Is like Henry was a part of this short-lived show on Adult Swim called Children's Hospital, and it was just it was absolutely hilarious, and he loved working on that show. So when I met him again this weekend, I mentioned that to him, and he's like, "Oh, I miss doing that show." But yeah, Henry Winkler is absolutely a treasure that needs to be protected because he's just an amazing guy to meet, and yeah, I highly recommend meeting him at one of these conventions if you have the opportunity to. Um, and like I said, just watching my brother-in-law CJ meet Henry Winkler was just um, I absolutely loved it because I could tell, and he was very nervous to meet him. And if you know CJ, he doesn't really get nervous about stuff that much. I mean, it really takes something big for him to get nervous over, and just to watch him like going up to get his autograph from Henry Winkler. I love it. I mean, it really warms my heart thinking about it, and I'll never forget it. Just and I think Henry Winkler just has that effect on people and I think that's why he's always got these huge lines at these conventions. But the thing it was crazy. I don't know what happened, but he may have just came back from like a photo op or something. But like when we went into that big celebrity room and he was the first person um, that we met in that room when we got in there because there wasn't really anybody in his line, maybe like three people in his line. And, I seen him standing there. I was like, hey, there's Henry Winkler. I'm like, what's going on? There's like no line. So Candace just like walks up to this volunteer who was standing near the entrance to his line and was like, is he is he meeting people right now? And I was just like, yeah, you can go ahead and jump in his line. And we were like, what the hell? I mean, and so we just went ahead and like I said, there was like two people in front of us when we got up there. And so we met Henry Winkler in no time. And it was just like all of a sudden after we finished meeting him and we were walking away, this line just starts forming, this huge line. I mean, and it starts snaking around all these corners. I'm like, holy shit, we got there right at the right time. Uh, so I don't know. Like again, I don't know how that happened. I don't know. Like we were just in the right place at the right time. You know what I mean? And that just something like that happened, it just adds even more to the positive experience of going to these conventions. Um, but I guess to move on from the whole experience with Henry Winkler, I'll show you guys a few more things that I purchased at the convention. Sorry, I'm just kind of like looking around because I got stuff laying everywhere and I forget where I put things sometimes. Um, but uh, all right, I'll go ahead and show these. Um, so this was kind of a last minute purchase before I left the convention on Saturday. So I mentioned this particular vendor um, when I was doing my HorrorHound video leading up to the show, because this is a vendor that I always check out every time I go to HorrorHound. He's always set up right in the same spot. He's been doing it for years. And this is a Muck Time Toys. And like I said, I always buy all kinds of stuff from this guy. And for a while, he's kind of had his own little company too, to where he's putting out his own toys, and that company is called Monstars. Um, Not to be confused with the Monstars from Space Jam, but this is this company. He puts out a lot of different horror film related, action figures, and he's had this series going for a little bit now, where he doesn't have all the characters out yet from the movie, but it's very close there. He just put out the newest one, and so there is one, two, three, four. There's five figures all together here that I bought from him this weekend. Um, and like I said, these are his figures that he's produced and released. And he gave me a deal on all these because, like, um, some of these were like, let's see, so this one was like $30, and the three of these were 25 each, and the big one here was like 40. But he let me have this whole set for $130, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it. So this is the Creep Show figure set. So first off, here is Fluffy and the crate. And this is actually my favorite segment in the original Creep Show. Um, so I did. This was just a no-brainer. I mean, I had the extra money to get all this set, and I just feel like it didn't really take a lot for me to decide. I was like, that $130 for all these. I was like, definitely for sure. So the next ones that I want to show you is this is from the Something to Tide You Over segment in the movie, and so there is Ted Danson and um fuck, why can't I think of her name? Galen Ross. So Ted Danson and Galen Ross's characters from the Something to Tide You Over segment. Um, so super cool. I love these figures. I love the design. I love the paint schemes on them, and then even the packaging on the back of this has that awesome image of Leslie Nielsen from that segment. Um, so yeah, I mean uh, there was just no question to it. I was like, I love Creep Show. I love the way these figures look. And like I said, I bought from the Muck Time Toys guy for many times over the years. Um, and the next one here is the Creep himself. So yeah, I mean that I just can't stop saying, like, I love how these look. I love the design of these. I love the scale of them. This is probably because I love like the reaction figures. I love the old vintage like Star Wars figures and GI Joes. They're all that same like 3 3/4 size. Um, which this one looks a little bit taller than like 3 3/4. So this may be like 4 4.5 or something like that. I'm not sure exactly what scale, but it's around similar to those other figures that I mentioned. And I love these. I mean, anything Creep Show, I'm gonna love anyway. So yeah, it wasn't hard to figure out that I wanted these. But these next two were the ones that he just released in the series, and so this is essentially these two are the same figure, just the the head sculpt on one of the figures is a variant, and one of the cards is a variant. So this is the Jordy Verrill figure, and it's Stephen King himself as Jordy Verrill. And this is the standard figure that he released. And here's the back of the card. Meteor shit. He got, and I love Jordy Verrill, which I'm a huge mark for Stephen King anyway. But yeah, like I said, that is the standard version of the figure. And let's see here. And this is the variant. So as you can see, got a little bit of a different head sculpt um, than what the other figure has, and I'll put them side by side so you can guys can see the difference there. So yeah, there's a different head sculpt going on there, and then also like the card. We got the red card and the green card. Um, so if you're a completist like me and toy lines and stuff, I think it was a no-brainer that I had to get both of these. Um, but yeah, that's the Creep Show. And then there's a couple more like they have released. He has released the Father's Day um, figure as well. Of 1 second, my thing is freaking freezing up again. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so he has released the Father's Day, and you can see on the back of the Creep packaging. So in the middle there, there is the Nathan from Father's Day figure. He didn't have it with him, um, but I'm hoping I can maybe like he might have it on his website. So I'm gonna try to get it and add to these. I would like to get all these. I don't think he has. Um, I forget what it's called. Uh, they're creeping up on you or something like that. It's the one about the cockroaches, which is the last segment in Creep Show. Um, he hasn't released that figure of that guy yet. I don't know if it's in the works right now. I'm sure it eventually will be at some point, but I'll definitely have to get that one as well to finish out the set. And they also need to do like the prologue and epilogue characters, like the little kid who's played by Joe Hill, and then Tom Atkins, who is the dad in the prologue and the epilogue. So I would, it would just be nice to have all of those characters to kind of wrap up this line of toys. But yeah, like I said, I thought it was a good deal for all these because, like I said, this the Creep and the two Jordy Verrills were 24.99 a piece. So that right there is like 75 bucks. Then there's something to tide you over set. He had 34.99 on those. So that's 105 bucks altogether right there. And then you add in the Fluffy, which the Fluffy was the most, 39.99. So that would have been another, 40 bucks would have been $145. So he took off 15 bucks because I bought the whole set. And I mean, I thought that was a great deal, and I'm happy to add them to my collection. And but Muck Time Toys, great vendor, always at HorrorHound, always has some of the best selection of action figures and collectibles. And there at the Cincinnati show that they have it. As soon as you walk into the vendor room, he will be right there on your right. As soon as you go into the main door, he's usually the first vendor you guys will see when you walk into the door. Um, but yeah, let me go ahead and put these away for just give me just a moment, and I'll just put these over here, and I'll put them up later. Um, but I guess I'll go before I show you the rest of the stuff. Well, no, I'll show you guys one more thing before I get to the last guest that we that I met over the weekend. So over a few shows ago, so I first met this vendor. I want to say maybe two or three horror hounds ago. I can't remember. Um, and I apologize, but I believe his name is Caleb, but he doesn't go by that name on Facebook. For some reason, I've never asked him his real name when we've talked, the times we have in person. But I think his name is Caleb, but he's also known as Plug Ugly from the Ugly Kids Club. Um, has some amazing designs for like on shirts and hoodies and stickers and all kinds of different stuff. And he's a super nice guy, super friendly. Um, and he had a lot of the stuff that he likes. He hasn't I have a lot in common with that. He tends to, all the designs he puts out. I'm like, oh my god, I love that, and I love that, love that. Um, the first things I ever picked up from him was a the ghost face from Scary Movie, where he's got like the waz up face, and I also got this Halloween Town shirt from him, and also some like Halloween Town stickers and some other stickers, that I got from him at the time. But um, was I was going down the aisle, one of the aisles on Saturday, and I wasn't even aware that he was going to be vending at this show, but he actually yelled out my name. He's like, "Hey, Chris!" And I like walked over there, and I was like, "Oh, hey, man!" So we ended up having a little bit of a conversation for about maybe 10 minutes or something like that, and I had remembered that a while back he put out these designs for like shirts and hoodies and stuff that I really really liked, and I was really wanting to possibly get the a hoodie of this design because this is one of my all-time favorite cartoons. And just so happened he did have a 2X in this design. So, I mean, I had no choice, guys. Sorry. I mean, I'm weak when it comes to this stuff sometimes. But I had to pick up this hoodie. And first I'll show you the front of the hoodie, guys, before I do the reveal of the other. So this is a Courage the Cowardly Dog hoodie, and this is the front of the hoodie on the left side. I believe it's the left side on of the chest. So you got that awesome image of Courage the Cowardly Dog, and then on the sleeves of the hoodie is you can see the title, the logo from the cartoon. Um, and you can see you got so this image of it's a UFO beaming up the logo, and at the end of that is the evil alien chicken, which is with his big laser gun. He was on several episodes of Courage, um, and I think so. Also on the other sleeve, it's got Eustace with the mask that he would scare Courage with. Is a stupid dog. You made me look bad. Ooga booga booga. And on the back, and it's got a ton of different classic Courage villains, and you got Muriel and Courage there, um and the logo at the bottom. So let me see if I can get the better image. So yeah, it's got super cool like imagery on there, guys. Like I mean, and the hoodie is so soft, and also if you see all the different like green aspects, colors on the hoodie, all of that glows in the dark as well. So, and like I said, that is Plug. His name is Plug Ugly, like his like gimmick name or whatever. But it's Ugly Kids Club. They do have a website as well. I believe it's just uglykidsclub.com, or you can just Google Ugly Kids Club. Um, he has stuff like Halloween Town, Courage the Cowardly Dog, Toxic Crusaders. He did like a Jingle All the Way shirt. He's done things like Never Ending Story stuff. Just a lot of like nostalgic, licensings out there that he's done stuff for. And again, like I said, he's a super good guy. I love talking to him. I love seeing him, and I just feel like such an asshole for not being sure of his actual real name. Like I said, I think it's Caleb, but I could be wrong on that. Like I said, I've only known him for about maybe a year or something at this point. Mostly know each other on Facebook and social media and all that. But when we do see each other at these conventions, I really enjoy talking to him. He's a good guy, and but yeah, definitely check out Ugly Kids Club. So and buy his shit. So it's and my friend Brandon is in here. Brandis. you have a good sense of style. Well, sir, you also have a good sense of style, and I think I picked that up from you. Probably, I've known Brandon since we were like first grade, back in I want to say 1993 or something like that. But Brandon was, he was one of my best friends growing up and everything, and so yeah, so I think we we created that sense of style together as we grew up because I know we both kind of like me and Brandon like similar things, like a lot of the same stuff. So, um, and we both love wrestling too, and I think that's one of the most important things in life. If you love wrestling, you're going to go far. Ho! But anyway, moving on. I guess so. I'll talk about now the last celebrity that I met over the weekend. And this was like I said, I met Corey Taylor. Um, and this was another musician. So this last person I want to talk about was another musician that I'm a big fan of. Also, my wife is a fan of, and my brother-in-law. And I've seen this person a couple times with their band. One of them being one of the most memorable concerts I've ever been to, and I actually mentioned this concert to him at HorrorHound, and when I mentioned the concert, he knew exactly what I was talking about. His eyes lit up, and he was so excited to talk about this. But this is Randy Blythe, the lead singer from Lamb of God. And let me go ahead and just throw this picture up here real quick for you guys. Let's see, where is it? Oh, here we go. So there you see, there's Randy right here, Randy Blythe from Lamb of God, and me and my brother-in-law CJ and my wife Candace. Um, so we didn't do any autograph from him either. We just did a photo with him, and he was another guy that we just walked right up to, had no line at all, and so I paid for the photo with him and everything, and right as we go to pose and take the photo, I just look over to it. I was like, man, I'm a huge fan, and I just wanted to talk to you about this concert that I went to back in 2006, where the first time I ever seen you guys, and in the location that it happened at. It was the first ever concert and last ever concert, and he kind of was like, gave me this look where he's kind of perplexed. Was like, "What are you talking about?" And I said, well, it was at Waverly Hills in Louisville, Kentucky. And when I said that, his eyes lit up and he was like, oh, well, let's take this picture real quick and then we're going to have a conversation about this. And this guy, he went and you could tell he was so excited to talk about this because we just began to talk about the stories about how like all the noise complaints and just like all the how like they had this issue with the people that were coming to the show because people were like uh, taking this path through the woods and sneaking into the show without actually having to buy a ticket. And then there was this whole thing with the venue that was trying to shut down the show early in the middle of Lamb of God's set because they were the headlining band that day because it was like a 1 day festival of all these different bands. And Lamb of God was headlining that. And so they kind of had this conversation with the management and everything, and they was wanting to shut it down. And he said he was just like, it, what's going to happen if you shut this down early. Like it's going to be complete chaos. These fans are not going to be happy. But thankfully, they did end up letting them finish the show and everything. But it was kind of like as soon as it was over, everybody, all the staff that was running that concert was like rushing everybody out of there as fast as they could. Was just yelling and everything, and just trying to push people out, as fast as they can. And then there was this whole other issue, like throughout in the day, like the band Behemoth played, and right before they played, the Devil Wears Prada played. So two polar opposites right there of each other. Devil Wears Prada was a Christian metal band, and Behemoth was like a satanic metal band. And after Devil Wears Prada, had played their set, like I said, Behemoth came on, and they had like a Bible, and it's like ripping up a Bible and like saying like all this very sacrilegious stuff on stage about Devil Wears Prada and just about God and everything, and it ended up causing this huge fight between the bands there at the festival, and oh my God, it was just really really something. And like I said, this was the first ever concert that they had had at Waverly Hills, and was the last one as well, because there's just so many like issues with the show itself, and just complaints of people that live to nearby Waverly Hills, just noise complaints, and just after the show, as people were exiting the show, there were people that were drunk that were like wandering into people's yards that lived nearby, and was like passing out in their yards. And one guy, like I think, pissed in somebody's yard, and several people were getting arrested. Um, and just to discuss all of this with Randy Blythe, as it was very memorable for him as well. It was so cool, and I loved it. And just a super cool guy. I mean, just very down to earth, very just a regular guy, man. It felt like I had known him for years just by talking to him, and because it I don't know, just something very different about it. It felt like it didn't feel like I was meeting a celebrity. It just felt like I was talking to an old friend or something. And he unfortunately he just put out a new book too, and he unfortunately, by the time I got to him, had already run out of those. He'd sold out of them at the show. So I'm still going to try to pick that up from Amazon or wherever, because I'm a big fan of him and Lamb of God. And also I know that in the book he talks about that whole bullshit that he went through years ago with regarding the whole fan situation, that where the fan ended up getting killed and all that, which is a really just messed up situation. And I would just love to know like his whole complete thoughts on that. So that's why I'm really wanting to pick up his book, because he's such an interesting guy and he was such a cool guy to talk to. So yeah, I can't wait to get that book and read that. And like I said, again, like all these other people that I've talked about this evening, if you're a fan of Randy Blythe, you're a fan of Lamb of God, you have that opportunity, like I did, like my wife and my brother-in-law did, to meet him at a convention. Definitely don't pass it up. One of the coolest guys, one of the coolest musicians I've ever met. I mean, 10 out of 10 experience, definitely. Um, and I guess with that, I will now move on to talk about a couple more things that I bought at the convention. Um, sorry guys, I know this is a lot. I spend a lot of money on these things because this just I mean I love buying shit. What can I say? Um, but let's see here. Where did I put those? Oh, there they are. Okay, so I believe this is the last thing that I'm going to show you guys. I don't think I got anything else at the convention. I mean, we went to Jungle Gyms and stuff afterward. Jungle Gyms is kind of like this huge store. It's mostly like a grocery store. It's like the largest grocery store I've ever been in, because it has all these different foods from all across the world. It's all in this one store. So they have all the different countries. Like it's kind of like Epcot at Disney, but it's a grocery store, and it also has like like a all these other sections, like a collectibles section and just pet section and all kinds of different stuff like that. But and I got stuff there too, but I may do a separate video for that. But as far as this last thing I wanted to show, so I've showed this particular vendor's products before here on the channel, um, and this is another vendor, much like the Ugly Kids Club vendor, that I've just came to know over the past year or so. And this particular vendor's name is Felicia, and she's an absolutely wonderful person, very super friendly, super nice. Every time I see her, she has a a smile on her face, and she just does some absolutely fantastic work. So her her whole merch that she puts out are pins. And pins is a big thing right now. A lot of people love collecting pins. A lot of people wear them, put them on their backpacks. Some people, like me, I have a pin board. Um, and I just love pins. And this is her main like source when it comes to her company of of the merch that she puts out. And so and like I said, she puts out all these several different cool designs. And I was so excited to see her again at this horror hound, because I knew she's going to be there, and I couldn't wait to pick up some more pins from her. And and like I said, her name is Felicia, but her company's name is Puncture Wound Pins. Like I said, I've talked about them here on the channel before. And so this is the back of the one of the pins right there. It's Puncture Wound Pins, and she is on Instagram. So you can go, if you have Instagram, you can go and just put in, the name of her company there, and please follow her, because like she's always putting out all kinds of cool pins all the time, new design. She's got a Nightbreed one coming out here soon, and it's super fucking cool. And she does them on all like different shapes and sizes. Like she does like coffin shaped ones. She does. I mean, the Nightbreed one coming out looks amazing. It's got like this kind of like gate that you can open, feature on it, to where like the gates open, you see all the different monsters in Midian. If in that is, if you're a Nightbreed fan, you even know what I'm talking about. But like, I love Nightbreed, and I can't wait for her, because I was hoping she would have it this weekend at HorrorHound, but she didn't. She says it's not done yet, but I can't wait to, because I'm going to get that as soon as I can once she releases that. But let me go ahead and show you the ones that I got from her this weekend. I just showed you guys all the Creep Show figures and stuff that I got from Amok Time Toys. So I had to go ahead and get this Creep Show ticket taker image from the Creep Show poster. I mean, that is, let me see if I can get that in a little bit closer. So check that out. Look at the detail on that design, man. I mean, that is fucking awesome. And it's an iconic image. Like the Creep Show poster is one of my favorite horror movie posters of all time. And so she was running a deal on several of her pins. Like what was it? I think it was like 15 each, or 3 for 40, something like that. Um, and so I was like, okay, definitely, I'm gonna pick up three from you for that. And I now I'm like kicking myself, because like she had so many with her this past weekend that I loved, and I wish I had bought even more from her now. But which, more than likely, once I think I'm after I get done with this video, I want to go and maybe purchase some more from her website. But because she is, I think, has the best pins that are out there right now. Like, no joke. She has some of the coolest designs, and maybe I'm just being biased, because she's putting out a lot of like pins about from things that I personally love. And this next one is a huge personal favorite of mine when it comes to movies, especially Halloween themed movies. And just, it's my favorite Ernest movie, and that's Ernest Scared Stupid. And check that out. How cool is that? Because in the iconic image of the poster art of Ernest Scared Stupid, it's Ernest coming out of the pumpkin. But here is the troll from Ernest Scared Stupid, which Ernest likes to call Booger Lips, um, coming out of the pumpkin instead. And I mean, that was a no brainer to get this pin. And just look how fucking cool that is, man. I mean, I think this was when I was picking out the three that I was going to buy. This was definitely the first one, and I said, okay, I have to get that one. It's because the Creep Show was actually the third one that I ended up choosing from. the three that I bought from her this past weekend. But as soon as I saw that, the Ernest Scared Stupid Troll, like, yeah, that's definitely what I'm getting. Um, but the last one I'll show you, and this one might be my favorite out of the three. Like I said, I saw the Ernest Scared Stupid one first, so I definitely got that. But then when I seen this next one, it was another no brainer because this is another movie I absolutely love. Um, uh, some people shit on it, but it's definitely, and I've reviewed this movie already on the channel earlier this year because it is my favorite Chevy Chase movie of all time. And if you know the one I'm talking about, if you remember me saying what my favorite one was when I reviewed this movie, it's Nothing But Trouble with Chevy Chase and Dan Aykroyd. And check that out. That that's so fucking cool. Cause you don't ever see Nothing But Trouble merchandise because that movie was at the time of its release, it was shit on by so many people. And like it got all these Razzie awards. Is like in it's to this day is the only movie that Dan Aykroyd directed, and I think by it being nominated and winning Razzie awards uh, the year it came out, and regarded as one of the worst films that came out that year, it just scared him away from directing again. And but I mean, the judge, man, he really made that movie. Like I say, that movie is my favorite Chevy Chase movie, but the reason it is my favorite Chevy Chase movie is because of Dan Aykroyd's role. And I mean, you cannot beat that. I mean, it is so like random and out of nowhere, and because it feels like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre meets like the Three Stooges or something. It's really hard to explain, but like it's got like these awesome makeup effects in it, and just very bizarre characters, and like this whole roller coaster of death, like like theme park thing they got going on the grounds in Volcavania. And yeah, but nowadays I think that movie really has a cult following, and a lot of people seem to love um, that movie. But yeah, I mean, I had to pick that up, and I just had to show those off. Give a shout out to Felicia. She does great work. Again, that's Puncture Wound Pins. And she has a website and she has Instagram. You can go to her Instagram and she'll have all her links on there for you to go check her stuff out and buy stuff from her. I highly, highly recommend this stuff. I think she has the best pins in the game right now. I mean, and I'm always going to buy something from her when I see her at these shows. I mean, yeah. So, big shout out to her. Um, but yeah, overall, guys, I had a fantastic time at HorrorHound this past weekend. It was one of the only times I've ever been to HorrorHound where I've only went like for 1.5 days, or not even less than that. But in just the time that I was there, it was one of my favorite times because like between meeting Christina Lindbergh, Corey Taylor, Randy Blythe, and seeing Henry Winkler again. I mean, this is probably definitely one of my favorite experiences with going to Horror Hound. And I know that I say that almost every time I go to Horror Hound, but it's just like every time I go, I have like an even more and more better experience with the show. And that's just that's another reason that I love that convention so much. It's my favorite convention. It has amazing people. Nathan Hanneman and his wife Jessica Hanneman, they are just wonderful people. And I absolutely love them. I mean, and every time, it's actually been several shows since I've actually got to see Nathan in person and actually stand and talk to him in person. Um, but just because he's so busy at that show every time, and it's hard to to run into him and get him to stand around and talk to you for a bit. But I'm always talking to him online and everything. That's the most of what our conversation where our conversations are. But every time I usually see Jessica at every show, and I have to stop and say hi to her, give her a hug, whatever. Like I said, this show is a show for fans by fans, and yeah, I just absolutely love Horror Hound. I can't wait for the September show. Um, it just to some people, these conventions are just a thing to do, and there's a lot of people that complain about certain aspects of them, but it just the Horror Hound and all these other conventions that I go to mean so much to me because of just the relationships with the friends that I have come to know and love, and I get to see every time I go, and just kind of how that develops over the years. That's something that's majorly important to me, and you know, just and that's one of the reasons why I look forward to going to these shows so much because I get to see these people that I've become friends with over the years, time and time again. And it's usually like the only time of the year that I get to see these people and get to interact with them. So, that's super important to me. And I just think that's why these conventions were invented to in the first place. It wasn't just, to bring in these celebrities and just get autographs, and that's all that people cared about, which there is a large group of people that is all they care about. That's the only reason they do come to these shows is just to get autographs, and then that's it, they're done. But I just think overall, I think that these conventions were made uh, initially for just to bring all these people together, all of us nerds together that like the same thing, and just kind of connect on that. And that's that's the way I've always seen it personally, and that's why I continue to go to these because, and that's why I'm so passionate about them. That's why I love them so much, and I just think that Horror Hound has the right idea. There's other conventions that are just like that. Scarefest is another one. FrankenCon, which is they're kind of new. This is their fourth year now coming up, and they're based out of Knoxville, Tennessee. Like I said, Scarefest, they're out of Lexington, Kentucky. Um, just the people that run those shows as well, also super passionate, also, you know, uh, very like fan built around being a fan of that stuff. So I've talked to a lot of those guys like from Scarefest and FrankenCon that run the show and stuff, and you can definitely tell, that they're super fans of this stuff as well, and all the work that they put into their shows, just like Horror Hound. It's there's a lot of passion there, and it's a lot of hard work, and I respect the hell out of those people for for doing what they do for us, the fans that get to come to these and experience these. And like I said, this is just it's a really important part of my life at this point because of where I've been doing this for so long. And I think some of the people, that are kind of new to these, they don't really get that yet because they haven't had enough experience with these to kind of, stuff that's kind of built around their own lives. So, and what I mean by that is like I said, these people that I have made friends with over the years at these conventions, like um, that's important to me because I end up caring about these people, and I love it every time I see them and get to have conversations with them, even if it's just like once or twice that whole year in person. That means the world to me, and that's why these conventions are such a huge part of my life. But like I said, Horror Hound, absolutely fantastic time. cannot wait for the September show. They're celebrating their 20th anniversary this year, HorrorHound, since they started the magazine. So I think the September show is going to be huge. And yeah, I can't wait to see who all they get for that show. But more importantly, I can't wait to see my friends again who are vendors or just people that just come to the show that I get to see. I mean, just I cannot wait. I just I it, it excites me so much just to even think about like because and that's a major thing too. Like for a lot of people too. Like once the convention happens, you go to it, you have a great time, but you start kind of going through this like post con depression, and I could definitely relate to that because after seeing so many people that I have become friends with over the years this past weekend at HorrorHound. I'm already like, kind of going into that back into reality. Got to go back to work Monday morning. Got to go through this typical day by day stuff that I go through with life, I know that I'm making that sound like awful, but like because there's a lot of good things is going for me in my normal life too, but like when it comes convention time and it comes and you get to see these people that you've become friends with, even if it's just a couple times a year, it's a different feeling, man. It's really a different feeling for me at least. And but I'm gonna leave it at that. I think I've talked enough about Horror Hound and conventions for right now. I mean, but well, to be fair, you can never talk enough about conventions and horror hound and your friends that you make at these. But you know what I'm saying. I want to go ahead and move on to the next half of the show. So, but one last thing I'll just say is that guys, if you've watching this and you've never went to a convention, if you're a fan of horror, I highly recommend checking out Horror Hound. They got another show in September. Also, check out Scarefest in Lexington, Kentucky, FrankenCon in Knoxville, Tennessee. Um, three of my favorite shows right there to go to, for sure. Three of my absolute favorite conventions to go to. Um, so yeah, definitely check all of those out. And or if those conventions are too far away from you, if you're in another part of the country, if you're on on the west somewhere on the west coast, there's just so many shows that are out there now that are available to people all across the country and all across the world. So if you've never been to a convention before, I definitely just recommend going to one and just to get that experience and to understand that feeling and that passion that I'm trying to describe to you guys the best I can. But but yeah, I mean, I just wanted to wrap it up with that and just yeah, can't wait again. Can't wait for Horror Hound in September. Um, FrankenCon is in May, and Scarefest is in October. So yeah, it's going to be a fun year, guys. I mean, it's already starting out good. Just did Lexington Comic Con and Horror Hound in March. So all right, the convention scene is already starting out good here in 2025 for me, and I can't wait to see what's next. Um, but now I can move on to the two movies I want to be talking about tonight for my 500 movies in 2025 series. And the first movie I'm going to be talking about is a movie that I've already talked about a little bit on this stream because I met the star from the movie. And of course, that is Thriller, A Cruel Picture, aka they call her One Eye. And this movie's from 1973. And I want to just go ahead and pull this picture up again before I get into this, like just to kind of give you guys to immerse you guys in what I'm going to be talking about. So I just want to pull this picture up of Christina as Madeline, or also known as Frigga in the film, the name that Tony gives her. But before I get into this, I just want to show this picture again and just try to make you guys understand. If you've never seen the movie, this movie is definitely a hell of an experience. Um, it's just this exploitation masterpiece, and it's a very brutal and just unflinching and ultimately empowering journey through this kind of hellish landscape of exploitation and just the will to survive. And this film really isn't like for the faint of heart, um, but it's more for those people who can really stomach these graphic themes and just um, it's just a truly unforgettable piece of cinema and an extremely important landmark in exploitation history. Um, so the director of this movie, and I'm probably going to be butchering his name when I say it here, but Bo Arn Vabinius or something like. I'm sorry, I probably butchered the hell out of that, but anyway, this filmmaker, he is primarily known for like exploitation films and thriller, a cruel picture. Certainly fits within that niche, following that it has. But in my opinion, it also kind of transcends, the genre because the director, whether intentionally or not, he crafted something that was I think far more complex than just like mere excitement with this film. And while his filmography might not be filled with like masterpieces, I think that Thriller: A Cruel Picture is undoubtedly his most recognized and impactful work. And I think it has really solidified its place in cult film history. Um, so the film emerged from this whole exploitation wave of the 70s, which was a period notorious for pushing boundaries and exploring all these like taboo subjects. Um, and while many films of this era simply aimed to like shock, Thriller: A Cruel Picture, it attempts to use its kind of exploitation elements to deliver this powerful message about like resilience and just the consequences of abuse. Um, and I think it's important to understand that this context, when approaching the film, that it is a product of its time, both in its excesses and its kind of surprisingly, feminist undertones. Um, so the premise for the movie is pretty simple, but also pretty devastating. So Christina Lindbergh plays Madeline, who is this young, beautiful woman who happens to be a mute, and she's living in this quiet life on her family's farm, and she just kind of has this chance encounter with this guy named Tony, who is like uh, I guess he's like a pimp, and and he just changes her life as she knows it. Because when she goes to try to catch this bus into town, and she ends up missing the bus, and then Tony comes along in his car, and he offers her a ride, so she accepts a ride with him, and they end up going to dinner and stuff, and it just after that it just kind of sets in motion this whole horrifying chain of events. Um, so once Tony, he takes Madeline to back to his place, and he pretty much he injects he drugs her, and then with like something in her drink, and this he gives her this injection of heroin, and this ends up getting her addicted to heroin, and then he forces her into prostitution. And just to kind of further isolate her, he writes all of these really hateful letters, and he forges like coming from her to her parents in her name, and this. ends up breaking their heart, and it ends up leading to both of her parents killing themselves because they just couldn't imagine life without her in it. As these letters that were sent to her were, like I said, very hateful letters, and just saying, basically supposed to be her saying that she didn't want anything to do with them anymore. She didn't want to see them anymore, and so forth. Um, and this whole cruelty from Tony just kind of escalates even more when Madeline, refuses a client, and this was after the fact. About her with her parents, killing themselves and all that. So she starts going to this decline and of of depression and everything. And like I said, she refuses this client, and it just results in Tony just brutally blinding her one eye by taking a scalpel and cutting out one of her eyes. And this is one of the only instances in the movie where we hear anything from Madeline, because like she doesn't speak throughout the whole movie. And then when he stabs her in the eye and takes her eye, then you hear this scream, this blood curdling scream from her, and that's really like the most that you hear from her in the entire movie. Um, so now after all this, she is now sporting, which to me is an iconic uh, image of exploitation by her wearing this eye patch, and she has a couple different ones, she wears in the movie and stuff. But so anyway, Madeline, she's forced into this kind of life of constant abuse and just these dehumanizing moments. However, in the whole depth of despair, this kind of spark of defiance, uh, this fire starts building inside of her. And one of the other prostitutes of Tony, named Sally, talks to her and kind of inspires her to come up with this. Who or because Sally has these kind of dreams of escaping this lifestyle, getting away from Tony and all that. So that inspires Madeline into kind of coming up with her own plan of what she can do to escape this life. Um, so she begins to start trying to save money. So she takes on these clients of Tony's and has sex with them and does different, really terrible acts with these people. And but like I said, she's doing this to save all this money, and as a part of her plan. And she takes lessons and driving and shooting and martial arts lessons, and she ends up taking some of the money and buying a car and some like different guns and weapons and stuff. And she also rents out this shed where she can like stockpile these weapons and keep her car and all that. Um, and then shortly after this, when Tony ends up murdering Sally, who gets caught when she's trying to escape this life, um, the whole final straw is broken with Madeline, and she just kind of goes through this transformation at this point to where she is no longer this quiet, shy, um, just innocent girl. She has now become something unrecognizable to where she's went through such a huge and drastic change in her life. She is no longer the any bit of the person she once was. So she embarks on this kind of calculated and very brutal rampage, just hunting down all of these people who have wronged her and abused her. Um, so and she starts off by going to this one guy, this client that was having sex with her regularly. She goes straight to his front door of his house on his doorstep, and as he opens the door, she blasts the shit out of him with his shotgun and kills him right there. And then beyond that, she tracks down these other two people that were clients. As this information is at this point coming out that the one guy got killed, by her. So now he realized Tony realizes that she's on her way to for these other clients as well. So he arranges this meeting at this restaurant with these other clients to talk to them and tell them about all this. And she tracks them down to this restaurant and leading to her killing the other two clients as well that abused her, and treat her the way that they did. And but Tony does escape in this, and this also then leads to one of my probably my favorite scene in the entire movie when they get to the warehouse, and you got Tony's goons waiting on Madeline as she arrives, and instantly takes care of those guys, destroys them, is a part of this kind of warpath that she's on. Then there's these police arrive, after the fact, to take her and arrest her. But, with these martial arts skills that she now has learned, she's able to take out the police. And this, like I said, this whole scene is probably my favorite in the whole movie because of just how it's shot, how everything in this scene is slowed down in slow motion to kind of like stretch out the impact of the scene, and it's absolutely brilliant, and I absolutely love it. But once she does take out those two police officers, she flees the scene and steals the police car and just kind of like crashes her way through the countryside, just flying through this countryside and kind of leaving this trail of destruction behind her. Um, and both the police and Tony are kind of in hot pursuit after her, and this final showdown kind of takes place in this little small fishing village, and just kind of culminates there, in this kind of brutal confrontation where Madeline ends up outsmarting and capturing Tony. Um, and her revenge here is very slow and agonizing for Tony. She ends up burying Tony alive, just leaving only his head exposed, and then ties this rope around his neck and the other end of the rope to a horse. And so here in the ending, there's this kind of very chilling, very calm scene where after she's done this, she goes and sits down in this meadow and watches as this horse drags Tony to his death. Um, and honestly, it's a just very fitting uh, and cruel end for this man who really reveled in cruelty himself. So, um, yeah, I mean, and then that's how the movie ends. Or I'm sorry, Madeline, Christina Lindbergh's character, then gets back in the car and drives away, and that's the end. I mean, it's an absolute masterpiece. It's a work of art, and Christina Lindbergh as Madeline, just her portrayal of that character is just the heart and soul of this movie. I mean, we are seeing almost the entire movie from her perspective. We're on this journey. We're going through all of this traumatic events that she's going through. So it makes this movie difficult to watch at times because like you feel for her and what she's going through, and just she embodies that character's vulnerability and that resilience, and just her transformation from this kind of like naive mute girl to this cold calculating avenger is both terrifying and just empowering, and also very just exhilarating overall. I mean, Lindbergh's performance in this is Christina Lindbergh's performance is just, you know, she doesn't say anything. Like I said earlier, she doesn't say anything throughout the whole movie, and her whole performance just kind of relies on her eyes and her body language, just to kind of convey that character's inner turmoil, and just her determination. And just everything about her presence in the movie is very magnetic. Like as we're drawn to her every time she's on screen. And I just think all of this has really made her, in my opinion, a an exploitation cult icon. Um, and I just absolutely love her, and it was just such an honor getting to meet her this past weekend at HorrorHound. Um, but then you have Heinz Hop, who played Tony in the film, and man, they chose a really good person for this because his portrayal of Tony is just utterly repulsive. Like you hate this guy. You can't stand him. He just kind of embodies that epitome of sleaze and brutality. And he is just I think he's perfect villain. He's one you genuinely despise and you want to see punished. And Heinz Hop, he plays Tony with this kind of chillingly casual indifference to his actions, which I think makes his character all the more disturbing. Um, and to talk about some of the most memorable moments from it, I mean, definitely one of the things that is most memorable from this is the eye patch itself that Madeline wears, because that the image of her with her eye patch is to me is iconic. And she wears a few different ones, and then she has the white one, the pink one, the red one, and of course the black one that she wears in the end. Um, and just that eye patch alone is just kind of this visual. Can't can't speak. Let me get a drink real quick. So she is like, I'm sorry, the eye patch is like this kind of visual representation of just her pain and her resilience and just this kind of newfound identity that she now has. And I think it's really like a symbol of just her transformation, from being a victim to this absolute badass. And yeah, I mean, she's just to me, she when it comes to exploitation films, like she is one of the most iconic characters to kind of come out of that whole era. Um, and what's up, Daniel? Glad to have you here, man. I was wondering if you're going to show up, man. Know you're usually in here, but yeah, thanks for being here, man. Um, you said you love the horror. I wish a werewolf would bite my ass. Ooh, yeah, man. Well, you could be a horror hound like me, man. Like, cause all and you should go to horror hound sometime, man. Like, I think you would really enjoy it. And they have like comic vendor. I know you're big into comics. They have comic vendors and everything there, man. But but yeah, like outside of that whole eye patch and the imagery of the film, you also got these scenes where Madeline is going through all these different training and training montages in the movie, like where she's learning to drive and to shoot and just fight. And they're not only entertaining, but also very crucial, to her character development as well. And um, all of those things show that her taking control of her life and just preparing for this revenge. And it's another just iconic part of the film for me. And speaking of iconic, parts of the film, the ending with Tony's final punishment, and the whole slow, agonizing death of Tony, is very memorable, and it's a very brutal and just cathartic moment, um, where it's just kind of a this fitting end for this guy who inflicted so much pain on others, and it's very strangely satisfying in a way as well, just because of you know at this point now Madeline is free from all of this bullshit and this life altering stuff that she's had to deal with. Now she's finally free of that, and I don't know. It's just something about it is very satisfying. Um, but this movie, Thriller: A Cruel Picture, I think it has left an undeniable mark on exploitation cinema. Um, it's considered mm, a very big key influence on Quentin Tarantino's like Kill Bill, because I know that this is where he came up with the character for Ellie Driver, uh, and just a lot of the themes throughout those Kill Bill movies were taken from Thriller: A Cruel Picture, and just all those visuals and and themes and stuff throughout it is very parallel to this. Um, and just the film's themes like exploitation, revenge, and just that whole empowerment of women had really resonated with the audiences for decades now. And said this movie is now 52 years old, and it's still like making an impact out there on a lot of people. Um, and it's really extreme violence and just the controversial content um, can make it a difficult watch for some people, and it's more than just a shock film. I think, though. I mean, it's a very powerful and just disturbing exploration of the human capacity for both cruelty and resilience, and it's a movie that stays with you long after you've seen it. Just because, I mean, I really think there's much to this that really makes it unforgettable, and um, it just kind of makes you reflect on that whole cycle of violence and just the desperate measures of that one might take to reclaim their identity. Um, but it's a must see. To me, it's one of my all time favorite exploitation films and I highly recommend it to anybody out there to watch it. Um, but it might be a little bit much for some people, but to me personally, I think it's a must see for fans of exploitation and those types of movies, and just anyone really interested in just exploring the kind of darker corners of the human experience. But I just will say, be prepared for a truly fucked up journey. Um, but because this is one, even though it's one of my favorite exploitation films of all time, but I do see a sense of beauty in it, and it's extremely fucked up. But so again, like I said earlier, it's not for the faint of heart. Um, but yeah, just it just makes it even more surreal that I got to meet the star of the movie this past weekend, and that's another unforgettable experience that I'll always have. Um, so let's see. Daniel, you said I've been wanting to get three autographs for years now. Number one, oh, you mean Kane Hodder, who plays Jason, and Robert England. Number two, Robert England, who plays Freddy, and number three, Simpsons, Matt Groening. Yeah, yeah, man. I've met Kane Hodder and Robert England multiple times. Both really cool guys. But I've never met Matt Groening. I would love that, man, because I love The Simpsons, but I also love Futurama as well. So yeah, he would be really cool to meet, man. Um, but I guess I'll go ahead and talk about now the second movie and the last movie that I'm going to be talking about for the night, um, which is Hell Night from 1981. And I originally didn't plan to watch this one so soon and to talk about it, but just there was a lot of changes that were happening because originally I was going to do Thriller: A Cruel Picture for sure, and Kevin Dillon was announced for HorrorHound, who was in the Blob remake from 1988. And one second, we'll turn this fan on for a second. Um, so it's getting a little bit hot in here, so I had to turn the fan on. But anyway, like I was saying, I had initially chosen the Blob remake from 1988 as the other movie that I was going to be covering this week because of Horror Hound. But right before I was going to watch the Blob remake, Kevin Dillon canceled from Horror Hound, and I was like, okay, so I don't really have a reason to watch the movie now. I mean, I still could have watched it and talked about it, but I just chose to not and to save it for another time. So instead, I chose, since Linda Blair was added as a guest in the last couple weeks before Horror Hound, um, I chose to do a movie that she was in. And since I'd already covered Savage Streets earlier this year on the channel, I didn't really want to do The Exorcist. Honestly, I'm not even a fan of the original The Exorcist. Just for a multitude of reasons, and I can get into that some other time. But I am a fan of Hell Night from 1981 because, as I've said in the past, I'm a huge slasher fan, and I think this is a very underrated slasher from the early '80s. Um, and Linda Blair, I'm a big fan of her stuff from the '80s. This movie and Savage Streets, Chained Heat, um, amongst other things. And but yeah, and like I said, I think but most importantly, this is a very underrated slasher from the early '80s. And I think if you really crave a truly like atmospheric, suspenseful, and just genuinely creepy '80s slasher, um, this one is definitely one to watch. Um, so this movie is, I think, is overlooked many times by people who are fans of slashers because just because it doesn't have that same prominence as like Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street or Halloween. Um, but I just think this one is really like close, to my heart when it comes to early '80s slashers. I think Linda Blair is awesome in it. Um, but movie was directed by Tom DeSimone, and it focuses on this kind of group of college pledges who were forced to spend the night in this kind of this like haunted mansion as part of this kind of fraternity initiation. So what starts as this like prank, ends up turning into this kind of fight for survival against this very terrifying and very real threat that exists in the mansion. And Tom DeSimone, who is he's not a household name or anything, but he was this director of horror and exploitation movies throughout the '70s and '80s, and um, he's known for like a lot of low budget stuff and that really embrace the genre's more lurid aspects. Hell Night is arguably, I think, his most well known work. Um, and I think he really understands, how to create this feeling of just unease and dread, and which is, I think, is a crucial element in Hell Knight's success. Um, and so the movie opens with this kind of usual college shenanigans. They're having this costume party and all this shit going on, and we're introduced to these four pledges. Jeff, who is this wealthy and kind of like confident jock. Then you have Marty, who is like the intelligent and resourceful like scholarship student. And Denise, she is like the free spirited party girl, the typical blonde that we all love and are attracted to in these '80s slasher movies. And then you have Seth, who is like this kind of laid back surfer dude who's used as a lot of the comedic relief in the movie. Um, but they go through this whole initiation into this fraternity, Alpha Sigma Rho, and it's anything but ordinary, honestly, because they have this task where they have to spend this night in Garth Manor, which is this abandoned mansion that's kind of steeped in legend and shrouded in this whole chilling history. And the story goes with behind the mansion that Raymond Garth, who was the mansion's owner, uh, ended up going insane and murdering his wife and three of his kids who were all deformed. Morris and Margaret and Suzanne, and before ultimately taking his own life. But however, the body of the fourth child that was also deformed, named Andrew, was never found, and neither was Morris's body as well. So this kind of local story of folklore, you know, was built on that they still lurk within the mansion's like darkened halls and hidden passages and all that. Um, so these pledges, they end up, as part of this initiation, they're locked within the mansion's grounds behind these uh, this huge iron gate with like spikes at the top of the gate, and they're just left there to face their fears and have to deal with these pranks that these fraternity members are trying to pull on them. And as the night goes on, this the kind of initial lighthearted scares escalate into something a little bit more sinister, I guess. So as these fraternity members, Peter, May, and Scott, who were tasked with tormenting these pledges as the night went on, they end up getting brutally murdered, one by one. And so as these pranks start to kind of fade out and they're not happening anymore, they're all replaced by this kind of very strange sense of dread. Um, so Seth, who ends up kind of getting attracted to the blonde bombshell in this, Denise, um, there's a point where he goes to like the bathroom and then he comes back, and then while he's in the bathroom, this like kind of dark figure, shadowy figure is lurking, and we don't see Denise get attacked, but then it's just like she disappears, and then when Seth, comes back to the bed and she's not there, but he pulls over the cover and he finds the disembodied head of May, one of the fraternity members who was involved with the pranks that they were doing on the pledges, and this just kind of like freaks him out, and he goes and runs and tells Jeff and Marty about this, and so they're trying they're to escape, but of course those gates they're locked in. So Seth said he's desperate to escape from this, and he's able to get over the gate, and he runs to try to contact the local police to let them know what's going on at this mansion. Um, but meanwhile, Jeff and Marty back at the mansion, they stumble upon this kind of hidden tunnel system that is beneath the mansion, and it reveals this this like imagery that is very like very creepy, where they finally figure out what happened to Denise's body, and her body is arranged with this kind of well preserved remains of the rest of the Garth family down in like this like dungeon type area. And it's just a very nightmarish discovery that I think solidifies the just that whole terrifying reality of that situation. um so Seth, since he went to the police and they don't believe him, they're not buying it. They think it's bullshit. They think it's a prank. Um, he ends up stealing a shotgun from the police station, and he makes his way back to the mansion. And when on his arrival back there, he ends up blasting away one of the deformed brothers, Morris. Um, but that victory is short lived. Because Andrew, the most fearsome and elusive of the Garth children, ends up emerging and killing Seth. And then after he's killed Seth, he starts to pursue Jeff and Marty. Um, and Jeff unfortunately also gets taken out himself. And in this kind of whole final act of desperation, Marty ends up escaping by driving this car through the iron gates that have fallen at this point, and then she impales Andrew on the sharp spikes. And the movie ends with Marty, bloodied but alive, and walking away from just this. horrific scene as the sun rises, and she's the final girl in all this, the lone survivor of this truly hellish night. Um, and like I said, I watched this because Linda Blair was going to be at HorrorHound, and she was there, and I had plans to meet her. I wanted to get my Savage Streets poster signed. Um, but things didn't work out, unfortunately, because she did have a massive line all weekend, or just the time that I was there. So it's just I didn't want to wait that long in her line, so I just decided to skip her. Unfortunately, I know it sucks, but um, but still, I mean, it is what it is, and I said, even though I didn't get to meet her, I'd already watched, Hell Night before I went to Horror Hound. I was like, I'm still going to cover it on the channel, still going to talk about it. Um, and, you know, to talk about Linda's character as Marty, she's, the true hero of the movie. She's just intelligent, resourceful, and determined. She's not just, running and screaming, although there is a scene towards where she is running and screaming, and it's very enjoyable for me, if you know what I mean, and I think you do. Um, but she uses her wits, to survive, and ultimately confronts the evil that haunts Garth Manor. But yeah, Linda's performance in this really brings a grounded realism to her character, and it makes you genuinely like root for her to try to survive all this. And Jeff Reed, who's played by Peter Barton, who a lot of Friday the 13th fans will definitely recognize. He starts out as kind of this typical like privileged jock, but he really does show like this surprising amount of just of empathy and courage, and just throughout the whole situation, and just his just this the connection that he has with the Marty character really adds kind of like a layer of emotional depth to the film. Um, and Seth, who's played by Vincent Van Patten, Seth, he, the character of Seth provides a bit of comic relief, like I said earlier, but he also demonstrates a sense of loyalty and bravery by doing what he did by going the lengths to the police station and trying to get help. Um, and just I think that really adds to the film's kind of escalating tension. Um, and then Denise, who was played by Suki Goodwin, she is like the typical blonde bombshell that is in 80s slashers that a lot of people love, and she's definitely I think a fan favorite in this one. She's a very attractive woman. I don't know what happened to her, but she was very attractive in this, and she's just kind of portrayed, as that stereotypical promiscuous party girl. And but even she has her moments of vulnerability though, and that kind of panic that really makes her a relatable character. Um, Daniel, you said you have a question. Hello, I can't remember, but did Drew Barrymore as a little girl play in a movie with a shit ton of kill cats or something? So Drew Barrymore was in a movie, an anthology movie called Cat's Eye, where all the different segments in the movie were all stories that kind of were from the perspective of this cat, and it's a Stephen King story, like or series of stories. But yeah, she was in that. She plays in all the segments of the movie, and then around that same time, she also did Firestarter, which was another Stephen King story, and um, oh, Killer Cars. But yeah, well, I thought she meant when you said cat, I was like, well, she was in Cat's Eye, but Killer Car, the only Killer Cars I can remember, like Maximum Overdrive, but she wasn't in that. Um, but around the time when she was a little girl, I mean, she was in ET, she was in Cat's Eye, she was in Firestarter. Um, that's the only thing that I can think of right now. Um, but uh, but I can't remember anything about her being in a killer car movie. I don't know. Um, but like I said, the only three I can think of is ET, Firestarter, and Cat's Eye. Um, but if you figure out what it is, man, yeah, let me know what you're thinking of. Um, but to talk about some of the most memorable moments of Hell Night, definitely like I spoke of earlier, when May and Scott their murders kind of adds a lot of intensity, I think, to the movie. And when May's head is shown on the bed, it's just so unexpected and just a kind of a very unexpected and terrifying moment in the movie. Um, and then also the discovery of the tunnels and finding Denise's body that's displayed with the preserved remains of the rest of the Garth family is just very super creepy and unsettling. And I know that kind of has been is inspired a lot of other scenes in horror films. Beyond that, it actually reminds me. I don't know if you guys have ever watched this series of found footage films called Hell House, but there is like a scene in, I believe it's Hell House 2, where it's got all these people like sitting around in a dining room table and their bodies are kind of like preserved and all that, I guess. And that reminds me of that scene that's in Hell House. I'm sorry, Hell Night. Oh, and that just kind of makes sense because Hell Night, Hell House. So maybe it was a direct inspiration. Um, but yeah, just that scene is very creepy with the revelation of what happened to Denise's body. Um, and of course, you got the hedge maze chase, which is feels very Shining-ish because this movie did come out a year after The Shining was released. So I don't know if the whole hedge maze chase was, just coincidental in Hell Night or if that was directly inspired from The Shining. But it gives that claustrophobic type of feeling where this unseen threat just kind of creates this sense of dread for these characters. And one of the fraternity members, Peter, his whole death in that maze is a very memorable moment in the film. Um, and then of course the whole ending, final confrontation between Marty and Andrew. When Marty's trying to escape, and just that this desperate final stand that she has against Andrew are both thrilling and cathartic. I think. Just that image of Andrew who's impaled on the gate spikes is is a very classic moment in early '80s slashers, in my opinion. Um, so in Hell Night, I mean, like I said, I love this movie. It's one of my most memorable early '80s slashers. Um, it may not have achieved like the mainstream success, like I said earlier, like of Halloween or Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street or any of those top mainstream slashers. Um, but I think it has definitely kind of built this devoted following over the years. Um, and I think a lot of its strengths kind of lie in that the atmospheric setting and just that suspenseful pacing and just these genuinely creepy villains just and which is to touch on that, like it's so odd because the the actors that played Andrew and Morris, I don't there's no information out there of what these actors names were that I can find, at least. um I know the guy that played that Andrew, they said he was like this unknown German actor who died at a very young age. Uh, I don't think it was long after this movie was released, but um, yeah, it's so hard to find any information on who the actual actor names of who played those characters. Um, but anyway, the movie, it doesn't have a lot of like excessive gore or anything in it. It really just relies more on that kind of psychological tension and jump scares to kind of create this unsettling experience. Um, and like I said earlier, I think its impact can be seen in numerous like haunted house and slasher films, much like how I mentioned Hell House LLC. I think this may have been a direct inspiration for those movies, just because there's a lot of horror films that will borrow elements from other films like that. And Hell Night, I think, really stands kind of as a testament to that whole power of low budget filmmaking too, because it proves that it can really tell a compelling story here, and just that whole chilling atmosphere, and just the characters are memorable in this, I think. And I think that can be just as effective as like a lot of blood and gore and all that. Um, but in conclusion, I guess if you're a fan of classic '80s slashers and you haven't yet experienced, just that whole terror of Hell Night, I urge you to seek this movie out, to watch it. I don't think you'll be disappointed. I've talked to many people who have seen this, and I've never really heard a bad thing about it. Linda Blair does a killer job in it. She's sexy as hell in it. The chick that plays Denise is sexy as hell in it. I mean, it's just like classic early '80s slasher goodness. You know what I mean? Like it's a gem of that whole genre that really deserves to be rediscovered and appreciated, in my opinion. Um, so yeah, definitely check out Hell Night with Linda Blair, and if and yeah, I guess that's it, guys. Um, I had a lot of fun doing this video as always. I mean, I love talking about my experience this past weekend with HorrorHound Weekend, and just very surreal getting to meet the star of Thriller: A Cruel Picture. Finally, as I've been a fan of that movie for such a long time, and then was glad to talk about it here with you guys tonight. Was glad to talk about Hell Night. There's other Linda Blair movies that I can cover in the future as well. So this will be the second one I've done. I did Savage Streets earlier in the year. I could probably do The Exorcist at some point, or Chained Heat, or the Exorcist spoof that Linda Blair did with Leslie Nielsen called Repossessed. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there, guys. There's just a lot of and others just Linda Blair stuff. There's so much stuff that I've got planned for the rest of this year that I can't wait to do, including what's coming up at the end of this coming week. So typically I would be doing my shows on Thursdays and Sundays, but I'm doing something a little bit different this coming week. I won't be doing my first show until this Friday night. And then I'm going to be doing the second show on Saturday night. And then I'm going to be doing a third show on Sunday night. So I'm going to be doing a 3-day weekend show of what I'm calling Godzilla Fest. That's right, I'm talking about my favorite monster in the world, the king of the monsters, and I'm going to be covering the first 15 Godzilla films, starting with the classic from 1954. So I'm going to be covering that whole Showa era of Godzilla films that were done by Toho. I cannot wait to talk about those those movies with you guys. I'm going to be showing off a lot of my Godzilla collection because I love Godzilla and I love the films. I grew up watching the films with my dad, and just like I think that's ultimately like what got me into Power Rangers because they kind of had that same vibe as the Godzilla and Ultraman and stuff like that. And I used to watch the Godzilla cartoon and just had the toys and just all. Godzilla has been a big part of my life since I was a kid. So cannot wait to talk about those films, show all kinds of stuff that I have in my Godzilla collection. It's gonna be a lot of fun. If you know anybody that's Godzilla fans, please tell them about it. Please let them, join us when we talk about those movies this coming weekend during Godzilla Fest. Um, and I don't know, guys. I guess that's it for me tonight. So again, just to mention this once again, I really enjoyed doing this video, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video as well. I appreciate all of you for checking it out. Um, I want to thank everyone who either watched this live and was here in the chat, like my buddy Daniel, my friend Brandon, my wife was in here earlier, Candace. Um, and I also just want to thank everybody that is watching this on replay as well, and just please drop me a comment below in the comments, and after this video is done, about what your favorite of these two movies, between Thriller, Cruel Picture, or Hell Night. Or if you don't want to do that, tell me, like, if you go to conventions, who is your favorite celebrity that you've ever met at a convention? Um, and also, as always, guys, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. It would help me out a lot. And if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button to catch more videos from me like this one. Um, oh, yeah, and click that bell for any kind of future notifications as well. So I guess with all that said, I'm Crater. This is CraterMania. I love you guys and have a good night.